Hi everyone, this is Luxthos, and today I'm going to bring you a new Necromancer Diablo 4 build guide. This one, we're going to call it the Bone Storm Corpse Explosion. Will it blend? I don't know. Honestly, there's just so much going on. You're going to be blending the battlefield into one massive darkness goo. It's actually really awesome to play. So it's mainly a Corpse Explosion build, which relies on Howl from Below, which is really good, and Black River, which are going to allow us to get those big Corpse Explosion, big pull of miasma, just like burning and obliterating and shadow damage over time, triggering some Shadow Blight. It's amazing. You get really good uptime on Blood Mist, some good uptime on Bone Storm because of Decrepify cooldown reduction. So we're going to get right into it. It's really fun build. Probably one of the most fun build I've played and one of the most strong build I have played. This is including Bone Spear. Just because it doesn't have the same nuke capability, but it still ramps up insane amount of damage and is extremely tanky. So this is going to be really fun. We're going to go into it. We're going to cover the gear, the Book of the Dead, the skill tree, the Paragon. So let's just straight up start with the skill tree right here. We're going to go with Reap with the upgrade to give you a corpse guaranteed every 5 seconds. That way you're going to be able to start your rotation if you ever find yourself in a situation where you don't have corpse, especially for Tendril. So that's going to be really good. 3 points in Hued Flesh because we need to have that corpse generation. Everything is going to be based around that lucky hit to generate more corpse, to explode even more, and it's just going to loop and create this insane playstyle. So this is super necessary. 1 point in Blood Mist with the upgrade to leave more corpse behind to just help out the build even more. 5 points into Corpse Explosion. This is going to be the big damage of your build. And then we're going to go into Blighted Corpse as well because this is going to trigger so many lucky hit and so much Shadow Blight. This is going to be awesome. 1 point in Grim Harvest. 3 into Fueled by Death. 3 points into Death Embrace. 3 points into Amplify Damage. And then 1 point into Decrepify that we're going to put all the way down here for the cooldown reduction. So this is going to allow you to spam most of your ability. So this is going to be really good. 5 points into Corpse Tendril, so to reduce the cooldown as much as possible, because this is how we're going to be applying vulnerability. So it's only going to be 3 seconds, but the cooldown reduction is going to bring this down to a roughly 3 to 4 seconds. You'll be able to spam this. Necrotic Carapace is really nice because we're going to be spamming Blood Mist so much, and it's going to be generating corpses. So we don't need to go through the whole Blood Orb using an Essence and then a Legendary to trigger Blood Orb and all that stuff. We don't have to do any of this. We're going to get fortified just from 3 points here with Blood Mist. 2 points in Reaper's Pursuit, 3 points in Gloom, 3 points in Terror, 1 point in Crippling Darkness just for the stun, a little bit of mobility and some extra damage here, really good. 3 in Standalone, 3 in Memento Mori, and then we're going to go full Bone Storm here with the upgrades. This is going to allow us to get even more shadow damage ticking with one of the Legendary and just give us some nice defensive layer with damage reduction, barrier, and all that good stuff. Shadow Blight, obviously, is the key point in this build. This is where the damage comes from. So it's all of these things that we're using. It's just to trigger some Shadow Blight, or most of it. So this is going to be really good. We're going to sacrifice our Reaper for shadow damage here. We are going to sacrifice the Cold Mage for increased vulnerability damage. And we're going to sacrifice the Golem here for 10% health. Although you could go 30% increase to critical strike damage because Shadow Blight should be able to crit. So some damage over time aren't critting. So like the Miasma Pull, for example, isn't going to crit. But the damage from Shadow Blight can actually have its own instance crit. So this could be very useful. Right now, we're going to be attempting a 59. And so I'm afraid a little bit. I'll be honest. I haven't tried a 59 yet with this build. So we're going to go with the maximum life. But there is a point to be made that the 30% multiplier here could be really good for the damage. We have a pretty good amount of life. So if we go down here, we lose 1,000. So we're gonna swap it to the 30% here. We're gonna see what it looks like if we're able to survive here. This key should hurt quite a bit, but we should be fine. Before we get into the Paragon, we're gonna go over the gear just so you can understand how the build works. I'm gonna go over really quickly the each piece, what legendary, what stats you're looking for. On the helm right now, we have Blood Mist, Corpse Explosion. Blood Mist triggers Corpse Explosion and reduce its own cooldown. Really good. On the helm, you're gonna want cooldown reduction, willpower, armor, max life, or even rank Decrepify is fine as well. On the armor right now, we got Disobedience. That nice, juicy armor is going to be stacked all the way up to 100 because we have so much ticking damage. Again, we have some total armor, max life, shadow damage. If you can get also damage reduction from enemy afflicted by shadow damage over time, those can be really, 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 really good. So we're going to wear this this one right here. So that's going to be good for defensive. Howl from Below is just going to be really, really neat. It's going to allow those corpses that we spawn to not just be static, but to actually summon minion that will run to a target and then explode, doing additional damage, getting us massive lucky hit, which is good. Corpse skill, attack speed, which is insane. It's just like these gloves are amazing for this build. For your pants, you really need that +4 corpse explosion if you can get it. Some damage reduction from close enemy or even distant enemy would be good. Also, 20% raw damage reduction for enemy afflicted by like shadow damage would be good. Max life, and then we're going to go for the Bone Storm generating a barrier. For the boots, it's a really odd choice, but it's going to make a lot of sense. The Greaves of the Empty Tomb, they're not 100% necessary. You could go with other boots if you don't have these, because the unique power from it is completely useless. But what's really good is the lucky hit chance with shadow damage and the shadow damage, also damage reduction when enemies are afflicted by shadow damage. So these are pretty bad. I got like very low roll on both of these, but these are the only pair that I got. You could also go for like massive 4-rank Corpse Tendril boots with a lot of movement speed. That would be probably pretty good, but the lucky hit here is really nice, and the damage reduction as well here is really nice. Black River, just really, really good. Allows us to explode more corpse per cast use. So this is going to be really great. The damage to distant is really bad, though. We're not going to use this, but it's not too bad. Damage to healthy enemy is it's okay. It's whatever. The rank to fuel death is not... The good thing about this is really the corpse explosion here. It's just wider range, more damage, and we consume more per cast, which is just what we want to do. We have obviously damage over time on both our weapon here. So on our offhand here, we're going to be using Blood Mist leaves a trail. So this is going to be a shadow trail on the ground that is going to add more ticking damage, which is going to proc even more the Shadow Blight, right? So this is going to be really, really good. And then we got some cooldown reduction, damage reduction for enemy afflicted by shadow. We got some Fortify here, lucky hit, really important. So just go for a combination of these. On our neck here, we don't have the best. Ideally, you would have like +3 corpse. All corpse would be good. You know, like as high as you can get plus corpse would be good. And also fueled by death would be amazing. I got gloom on here, which is not bad at all. But fueled by death would be good as well. Damage reduction is really good. Cooldown reduction, all that stuff would be good. And then we have the Shadow Blight. Increased damage every time we trigger it 10 times. So this is a big 180% damage increase. Super nice. We're going to have the Shadow Blight ramping up legendary on this one here. So every time it does damage, it increases the next occurrence, stacking 5 times. We got some lucky hit on the ring. Really nice. Damage over time. Damage to enemy afflicted by shadow damage over time. Reduction, all that stuff. It's you get the idea, right? Life, lucky hit, any kind of damage reduction, any type of damage increase to shadow. They're all really, really good. This one is going to be Bone Storm. So this is just to transform the Bone Storm ability into shadow damage. So that way it triggers even more Shadow Blight. So this is going to be really, really good. And that's it for the gear. So we're going to go with Ruby for the gems to give us more HP. And then we're going to go for the damage over time gem and then some skull over here. We went over this. We went over the skill tree. Now for the Paragon board, pretty straightforward here. We're going to go for our first board here with Amplify, which I still need to put some points in. I still need to rearrange some stuff, but ideally here we would have our +2 intelligence. So I'm going to go ahead and fix this one for the build. The link is going to be down below with all the adjustment. I'm just going to go over the main line and the glyph here, and then all the correction and adjustment are going to be made in the build down below, right? So we got the Amplify here for the boosting of the nodes, but mostly for the curses damage here. So 10% more damage with the curse. This is going to be really, really good. We're also going to move on to the next board, which is going to be Wither for more shadow damage. So this is going to be amazing. It also makes Willpower a really good stats for us. We're going to get most of the important nodes for shadow damage over time. And then we're going to go here for a Scourge, which is going to increase our shadow damage over time as well, which is going to be good. We're going to move on here to Flesh Eater because we're going to be consuming so much corpses. We want that extra 40% damage increase here. And then we're going to go for Territorial. Damage reduction against close enemy and increased damage done to close enemy because we don't have any distant damage with this build. We're going to move on to Scent of Death, just more damage, damage reduction, just really good. And then Darkness, which is even more shadow damage and damage reduction as well. So that's going to be really, really good. And then we're going to finish it off with the Bloodbath board, but we're not going to go for Bloodbath. We're going to go all the way here to get the Control socket. So, and then we're going to go with the increased damage to Fortify. So as you can see, I'm still limited in my points. I'm missing quite a lot of zone for Renown here. So we only have 1, so I'm missing 4, 4, 4, 4. So a lot of points that I could add in here to make this Paragon board even better, to reach this point here, to be able to get a lot of extra damage on stun. So I'm missing a lot of multiplier, right? We're going to go ahead and fix this one real quick, and then we're going to get started with the key. The key is going to be a 59 champion demise. So I have no idea how this is going to go. This could be really, really bad, or this could go pretty well. I have no clue. I just did a 50-something champion. It went well. 59 is a big scaling, though. So let's just get started. All right, so one of the most important thing here is initially we're going to have 0 Fortify and no barrier for Bone Storm, so we got to play a little bit careful. You can't just go in and try to reap without anything. So most of the time you're going to try to go for that Bone Storm first, get a little bit of barrier, then get a corpse with reap. And there we go, just like that. Try to survive real quick. Tendril, and then we Blood Miss, and then we just let everything melt in absolute oblivion. We're going to try to run through these really, really quickly here. We're going to try to curse everything we see just to get some nice cooldown reduction. As you can see, I'm receiving quite a lot of damage here, so I still have to be very, very careful. We're going to press it again real quick. Try to make sure we consume those potions. We have Bone Storm back up again. I can Blood Miss again here. This is quite risky right now, but as you can see, I mean, things are dying, right? So it's just a very, very risky play of playing right now in this high key, but it is working out. So we're going to make sure that we kill this density here. If we can get out of there, that would be nice. As soon as we get this Blood Miss again, there we go. It's all about generating those first corpse so you can kind of get the ball rolling. There we go. Generate, try to get a corpse here. This build plays really well on a controller. Controller tends to snap damage a little bit better to corpses. Mouse is a little bit clunky. I think the radius to grasp... I think the radius to grasp corpse with mouse is not that great. It struggles a little bit. So especially when you got the miasma rolling, you don't see where the corpses are, which leads to a pretty... interesting play style. There we go. I just got to be careful here, not get one shot. As long as you got the stun rolling and everything, it's just that first hit. You just got to be careful a little bit. Well, once it's rolling, you're safe. You are totally safe. Everything is just going to be melting. And as you can see, this is kind of insane. This is some high damage profile that we're seeing here. We're gonna have to engage here because I got rooted. These spiders are absolutely your Necromancer's worst enemy. You cannot let them get the best of you. Make sure that we get everything here. Tendrils, Blood Miss. There we go. So we get that nice vulnerable. All those stacking. We can do everything again here. We're gonna try to go kill this shaman. He's quite deadly. That fire proc here is really, really bad. We do have barrier now, so we're a lot more tanky. We can engage a little bit more. There we go. Fantastic. Et voila. There we go. We're just going to wait for the fire to go away. And then we're going to grab the stone real quick while they're stunned. And we're going to move on. There we go. We're just going to go back to the stone. Might engage with this one even. Quick reap, quick tendril. Oh, and I wasn't enough on the click. So you got to be careful. Blood Miss is really, really, really delayed of an ability. Even if it's out of cooldown and you press it, it doesn't really click. I don't know if this is an issue with all defensive, but with Necromancer, this happens to me all the time. You press it and then it's just, it doesn't want to go immediately. It has like a little bit of an animation delay. So you got to be super careful with that. So right there, I should have went for the Blood Mist before pressing anything else. I didn't look at the damage profile well enough here. So what we're going to do here is we're going to immediately start with this. And then we're going to go ahead and Blood Mist. So this gives me a chance to react a little bit to the damage. And as you can see, it just goes better. Sometimes you're going to try to go for the risk and just like, you know, try to get your first tendril without using your Bone Storm if it's not ready, especially. And yeah, sometimes you're going to pay the price. sometimes you're going to pay the price. So that just happens, right? Just be careful with that. Know that there's a little bit of a delay when you press Blood Mist. So make sure that you do it safely, right? Reap is a guaranteed corpse, but it is also forcing you to go in melee. So this could be, this means death if you don't have that Bone Storm rolling. There is a legendary that extends the duration of Bone Storm, which would increase significantly or tankiness, but it consumes corpses. So what ends up happening is you don't end up doing a lot of corpse explosion because you're consuming them to bolster the Bone Storm. So it's a little bit of it's something that would need to get playtested a little bit if there's enough corpse generation maybe to make up for it. But in most cases, when I played with the one that would consume the Bone Storm, it always ended up being a little bit problematic for my corpse explosion because there was no corpse left. And it tends to consume them before really consuming them. So it kind of reserves them. It's kind of a weird style that's happening. There we go. We're just going to make sure everything is dead here. As you can see, we're pretty tanky when we're playing safely, you know. These hit for very, very large amount of damage. So just being able to be constantly in that Blood Mist state and being unstoppable and being able to run through monster is such a good quality of life for Necromancer in general. So always engage first with the Blood Mist and then try to leave a little bit, right? And then when you get the Bone Storm, you can go back in. Engaging with the Blood Mist first is going to allow you to get some corpse explosion down, which is going to allow you to get some lucky hit to get more corpse. Because sometimes you don't want to open up with Reap. Like, the monsters are just way too deadly. So what I'll do is I'll do this, and then you can see I'm running out, and then I corpse tendril, which allows me to then go back in. Because I can't just go face tank a goat like this, try to get a Reap off. He's going to shut me down, right? So it's all about decisions. If you have Bone Storm, you can, right? So I can do this. I can Reap, Tendril, and then Blood Mist, right? So it's all about, do you have Bone Storm available or not? If you don't, then run in with Blood Mist, get some corpse explosion done that will trigger some lucky hit, which will trigger some corpse. Then get the... okay, we're dead here, probably. If corpse... Okay. Spiders are very scary. That root will absolutely mess up your day. See, it's going to mess up my day probably again here. There we go. Let me... Okay, a little bit of... all right. The root is your worst enemy in here as a Necromancer. There we go. Because they catch up to you. So it's all about knowing, like, just what to open with and how to execute your damage sequence so you don't die. There we go. We're going to Reap real quick. Tendrils. No. Okay, there we go. If Tendrils doesn't snap, especially since it has a delay, you have to make a quick action. Otherwise, you're just going to be dead at this high key, right? So we're going to go ahead and get the stone here, and we're going to go back. So hopefully my explanation kind of makes sense. I'm kind of going by feel here and talking at the same time, which is a little bit distracting, but I'm trying to express as much as possible how it feels. And as you can see, the damage is there, right? I mean, it takes no second, and everything is melting in a 59, right? And this is not even optimized. Most of my gear is pretty low optimized. I don't have the perfect roll on the Blood Trail. I don't have the perfect roll on the on a 1 or 2 Lego. I'm missing like a lot of Paragon points that could make this even better. But as you can see, it is an endgame build though, right? So this is not something that you're going to be leveling with. You need the pieces. You need the pieces. I mean, you can probably still make a leveling variant if you got lucky enough and you got maybe 1 of the 2 required unique. I could see that being possible. You could probably do something fun with it. But to make it really, really work well, you're going to need most of the unique and the pieces here. So, oh, okay. This was a really, really critical place to be. As you can see, we're still extremely squishy, especially when that Fortify is falling off and we don't have that barrier. These goats are absolutely going to melt you with their range attack here. So we're going to go ahead and Blood Mist, get out. We're going to Tendrils, wait a little bit, and then we're going to Corpse Explode everything here and just cooldown reset. There we go. You don't have to go back in. You can kill everything from range just with Corpse Explosion because they're going to run to the pack too. So slow down everything, make sure we're good. We're going to Bone here, Bone Storm. There we go. We're going to Blood Mist, just melt everything. And I can stay here because I got that barrier. I'm not afraid right now. I'm not afraid at all. As long as I have that barrier running, we're good to go. As long as you got the barrier running, your goal is to do as much damage as possible so that you get cooldown reduction, right? There we go. So now we got Bone Storm again. This is going to be a really tough pack. A lot of suppressors, which are going to be range. This is not going to go down easily here. And they don't want to get gripped by tendrils, so it is going to be awkward. They're also leaping away. This is just a really awkward fight. Also, out from below minions, sadly, will collide with the... It's really, really, really annoying, honestly. Every projectile in this game just, like, collides with suppressors. So as you can see, these goats are a little bit of more of a problem than you would expect. Simply because the enemy that's running from the legendary glove to create the corpse explosion can't penetrate the suppressor gate. So you just have to kind of generate corpse underneath them, but they leap, they move. This is a little bit of a weak, but honestly, just never play in suppressor key and just hope that you don't get too much in keys until they fix it or nerf it, because it's really bad affix. Really, really bad. Let's run back. And then we're going to do the 2 little boss. They could be annoying, these 2, because, again, they run a lot. So, you know. There we go. Look at that damage over time just on the little spider here. Every time you can curse something, do it. Because you're going to get your cooldown reduction to proc, right? There we go. Fantastic. We're going to get the reap. We're going to get the thing. There, voila. I forgot to Bone Storm here, but that's fine. We should be able to get everything. Oh, all right, there we go. As soon as you're able to at least tendril monster together, I mean, it's over. There's just nothing else to it. I can get a little bit of cooldown reduction here while I'm here, so I can get Bone Storm back for the boss if I really, really wanted here. There we go. A little bit of damage. All right, let's run to the boss here. Let's run. There we go. We're going to curse him. We're going to get a corpse. We're going to get a tendril, and then we're going to blood miss right underneath. Try to stack it up. This boss should not be moving too much, which is not going to cause us too much issue here. But as you can see, you know, the single target damage of these with lower density is obviously going to be a little bit lower, but it's still going to dish out some pretty decent amount of damage. Remember that this is a 59. The staggering is insane. See, he's already staggered. So now we can just literally like curse him, blow up every corpse, generate some more with Reap if we need to. There we go. Just make sure there's always stuff rolling on the ground so that you always get those lucky hit. We're going to blood miss even more here. And as you can see, we're staggering and dishing out pretty nice damage. But the cooldown reduction is not as good on single targets. So you don't get to just spam blood miss all the time on one boss. But for 59, this boss is going down at a pretty reasonable pace right now. There we go. So overall, the key felt at least more safe to me. If I was to run this as Bone Spear right now, I would definitely have died. Just because there's not a lot you can do as Bone Spear, right? You dish out a lot of good damage, and then if you're in trouble, you can blood miss. But then because you don't have that cooldown reduction, because you're not generating a very big amount of barrier, sometimes you get overwhelmed, especially if there's spiders that are going to root you. If there's any of that, it's just going to lead into a situation where in Bone Spear, you get overwhelmed. If you don't dish out like crazy big damage and clear out everything, which happens a lot, but once you start going up in key, you're not going to one-shot everything necessarily. So sometimes you get overwhelmed, and because of that, you feel a little bit more squishy, but this build usually will welcome feeling overwhelmed, right? As long as you have at least Blood Miss or Bone Storm, you can start engaging with the Reap, which allows for the guaranteed Corpse Tendril. Sometimes you're going to kind of panic, try to Corpse Tendril, and it doesn't work, and then there's a delay for the stun. Those are just issues with Necromancer in general. If you play with a controller... Whoops, sorry, I banged the mic. If you play with a controller, you're going to be able to snap those Corpse Tendril a lot better because they're going to be automatically locked. So I hope that's something they improve on. It's just going to make this build even better. But that's pretty much it for this build. Once we optimize it even more, this has potential to be one of the strongest build in the game. Such a high survivability and high damage rate. It's just really, really fun. So if you enjoy the video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I got more stuff coming up for you. Make sure you leave a comment down below. And make sure you leave a like if you enjoyed it. I'll make more. Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody. See you in Sanctuary.